Hello. The topic I decided to do for my persuasive speech is on bully prevention. Now, imagine you are a high school student and you walk into class, and one of your classmates calls you ugly and says that you're stupid. And after that happens, you walk into the hallway heading to your next class, and as you're walking, you end up getting beat up by a couple of other students. And after that happens, the bell rings, it's time for you to head home. You walk inside your house to get on your phone and unwind a bit. And the next thing you know, someone on social media, someone from your school, posts a video of you getting beat up onto social media. So that literally just allows everyone in school to see you getting beat up that day. So not only did you have a bad day, you everyone in your school knows about it now. If you were listening to what I was saying, you just got bullied in three different ways. You have been, let me see what I'm talking about. You have been oh, wait, hold on. Yes, there it is. You have been verbally bullied, physically bullied, and cyberbullied. Those aren't the only types of bullying that can happen. Those are just a couple of examples. Now, the reason why I decided to do my speech on bullying prevention is because when I was in elementary and middle school, I was bullied a lot by my classmates. I was made fun of and I was teased. And because of that, it made me very socially awkward and it prevented me from making a lot of friends those couple of years. I grew out of that, but it was a very difficult time for me. And, it was a difficult time for me and my mom, due to the fact that I was being bullied a lot. The main points of my speech are going to talk about the problems of bullying, the negative consequences that can result from, bullying a child, what can happen, solutions that you can do to fix those problems with bullying, what can happen if a teacher actually addresses the problems in class, what's going to happen if a teacher just ignores the issues, and finally some steps that, schools and teachers can take to actually prevent bullying from happening in class if they haven't been doing these steps already. Now, the main reason why I did this speech was to persuade my audience to continue to encourage and provide support to any schools and teachers out there because they clearly are doing everything they can to prevent bullying from happening in the class. But, as people, we need to make sure they are able to continue doing that and show that we care. Now, on to the first main point, the problems. One negative thing that can happen from bullying a child is them developing a mental illness because of it. In fact, according to a National Bullying Prevention Center article, around 1 in 5 students report being bullied each day. I understand it doesn't sound like that big of a number, but it can become a big number once you multiply that percentage by the number of students in schools that we have across America. And now, according to a National Child Trauma Network article, depression and anxiety are one of the main illnesses that a child can get when they are bullied. And that is a really bad thing because it can actually translate into their adulthood and carry on and cause problems when they become adults. Now, the second problem that can happen due to bullying, a child can get from bullying, is them missing school and having bad grade performance. In fact, according to a public school article by Kate Barrington, around 160,000 students will skip school on any given day just so they can avoid being bullied. Students normally do this because they don't want to risk, being harassed or physically or verbally by anyone in class. And this normally happens because, children who make bad grades on assignments may sometimes be teased for it, which may diminish their confidence and cause them not to participate in class and not ask for help when needed because they don't want to be viewed as dumb or stupid. Now, the last negative consequence that can actually happen is a child developing self-confidence and self-esteem issues. In fact, according to a McLean Hospital article, bullying that causes changes to their confidence, self-esteem, may sometimes result in self-criticism and self-isolation problems. That basically just means that they'll isolate themselves from others and they'll constantly bring themselves down when it comes to thinking about who they are and how they look and the way they act. These are all horrible problems, and you shouldn't want them happening to your child. Now, some solutions to these problems include offering counseling and therapy to students who have mental illnesses, offering tutoring to students who have bad grade performance because of bullying, and finally, teaching students who are being bullied because they're being themselves to not let the bullies win, how to speak up for themselves, and how to stand their ground when they're faced with confrontation. Now, a couple of things that may happen if you don't really agree with what I'm saying is that, bullying will continue to rise. The numbers will go higher than they are now. It won't be minimized, and students maybe even be afraid to go to school just because they don't want to see that person that's bothering them. and the grades will continue to drop, the mental illnesses will continue to rise. I understand that's not the case for every single child, but studies show that it can happen to any child. Some children just handle it differently, but some children can get these type of mental illnesses a little easier than others. So it's important that we make accommodations for all of them. If you do agree with what I'm saying, then continue to do what you're doing. Students will continue to come to class on time. They'll probably have higher grades, and if they are experiencing mental illnesses, at least it won't be because of the bullying issues. Now, a couple of steps you can take, some schools and teachers can take if they're agreeing with me, is to let students know that they can always talk to their counselor about anything that's on their mind. Make sure they feel appropriate and they feel comfortable talking to their counselor. Next, you can actually continue offering tutoring for any students that are having bad grade performance, because it's only in their best interest, and it's only to help them have higher grades. And finally, make sure that you enforce any anti-bullying rules, anti-bullying regulations in your school, and make punishment accordingly. Like, don't expel a student all because they accidentally bumped into somebody or they got into a pretty bad fight. Just, enforce the rules and lay down the law when needed. In conclusion, I firmly believe that bullying is something that nobody should ever have to deal with. I understand adults and children deal with it every single day, but that does not mean that anyone should have to deal with it. Like I said before, the main points of my speech were talking about the problems of bullying, the solutions to a few of those problems, what can happen if teachers actually address these issues, what can happen if they ignore them, and finally some steps that schools and teachers can take to prevent bullying from happening in the classroom if it hasn't happened, or if they're not taking these things into consideration already. And one final note, I understand that bullying can't be abolished completely, and it can't be stopped entirely, but it certainly can be can be minimized to an extent. Like I said before about the solutions, one of the biggest solutions to helping a child who has mental illnesses in bullying is therapy. In fact, according to a good therapy article, therapy is one of the main things that parents should do to help their students who have been bullied and who have been showing signs of mental illnesses caused by bullying. And on one final statement, I understand there's some people out there who believe that bullying is necessary in kids because it teaches them how to stand up for themselves and how to be strong. But in my opinion, if you really want a child to be strong and how to stand up for themselves, probably get them into self-defense. Teach them, right and wrong. Teach them how to stand their ground properly. If you want a child to be strong, you need to be able to give them things that will encourage them and build them up. Don't give them things that will, destroy them and bring them down. I hope you all have, listened to my speech, you have found it interesting, and you have liked it. Thank you for listening.